Now, let's hear perhaps from the man who has coordinated this book and helped make sure that we do have a book now that is in print and that is, I think, on sale. Mr. Jawan, would you like to tell us a little bit about the book, and then we hear from Javed the view from Afghanistan?
Well, first of all, let me thank you, Radha, and thank you for the India Center for putting this event together during these extraordinary times, actually, in India. So I extend my prayers and thoughts with people of India. But to go beyond that, I mean, Professor Rubin talked about most of the things, actually, that I have written down in my own notes to talk about that. So I won't go and repeat about that. I'm going to make a couple of specific points, but before I make that, let me talk about like the big framework of the volume. Obviously, we have 22 essays in this volume, and we try to divide that into 3 broad sections. And the first section deals with an analysis of the letters themselves, which is we have people from the States, from South Asia, from Afghanistan, who have actually gone deep and read and analyzed these letters from different perspectives. And then we have a second section in the book that deals with like themes, state-society relationship. So they deal with the media, they deal with civil society and development and state formation in Afghanistan. The third section, which deals with a kind of wider regional aspect of the war and peacemaking in Afghanistan, is also like expansive. So together we have 22 essays. We have like several contributors who are actually female. That's very important, something that we considered when we called, when we extended our invitations to all their respective contributors. So that's something to take into consideration, and that's important because, as I have said it elsewhere, the field of Afghanistan studies has been dominated by men, and that's something very important that we have to make sure, especially at this time, to hear from women as well, and that's something that's so unique about this volume. But to go kind of beyond the book and talk about something that I have kind of framed it in my notes is sort of like South Asia in Afghanistan and Afghanistan in South Asia. That's how I will like look at the region as other colleagues have talked about it. And the point I'm trying to make is that is important to kind of link it to the larger situation that is true of Afghanistan, and that is my understanding is I'm a historian. Peace has never been a priority in Afghanistan for the international community, and I still believe in that. I don't think that peace has become a priority even for the region. I mean, the point I'm trying to make is that we do have. This is not a sort of like a blame game here. But we have like solid evidence of serious like military and political interventions in the country, not now, but in the 1990s and before. And that is something, if you read like the letters, obviously the 3 letters exchanged between President Najibullah and Professor Cocker, in these 2 letters, they are very specific actually. They do focus on like 2 aspects of the war and peacemaking in Afghanistan. One is obviously the part that deals with Afghans themselves, and they are very explicit about that Afghans are not doing their job. They are not outreaching to each other. They are not talking to each other. I mean, Professor Barney talked about that point. Mujahideen never recognized the legitimacy of President Najibullah. And I think one thing I should actually add here that hasn't been mentioned In addition to this English volume, we also produced a volume in Farsi and Pashto, which is quite actually interesting, because in that volume we have contributions from a number of former Mujahideen and members and then members of Communist Party of Afghanistan. In those essays, actually, we can clearly see from Mujahideens themselves that they say that maybe we made a mistake. We should have made actually peace with President Najibullah. So that is something to take into consideration, very important. That's one thing. So I'm not one of those people who come up with solutions. I don't know what is exactly the solution for Afghanistan. But as far as I understand and think is that it's not 10 years war, it's not 20 years war, 40 years of war have been going on in Afghanistan. Afghans have been involved deeply in it, and internationals have been involved deeply in it. So that's something to take into consideration. And in these specific 3 letters, actually, both President Najibullah and Cocker are again explicit about that intervention. And that is something I think crucial. So if we are going to see peace in Afghanistan, it's not just going to come through Afghans. That's obvious. Yes, Afghans can get together probably and make peace. But if we continue to see international intervention in that country, whether that's in the form of military or whether in other form, it's going to be problematic, and peace is not going to be sustainable. And in the letters, at least in Professor Cocker's letter, for example, Pakistan and Soviet Union are singled out. I mean, they are described as half of the problem in Afghanistan. And that is something serious. I won't go into the details of that because Khatak Saib will talk about that in details, and we have a wonderful contribution. And Dr. Kumar, you have contributed a wonderful essay that we don't have that regional framework for Afghanistan to make peace. So that's something. If region is important, of what region we are talking about? Are we talking about region South Asia? Are we talking about Central Asia? Are we talking about Iran? So Iran must be heavily involved. I mean, we shouldn't deal politically here. I mean, Iran has not only massive interest in Afghanistan, but Iran has massive influence. Iran has been part of Afghanistan, not now, but for for centuries, and Afghanistan has been there. So it's very important to take into consideration. And my own understanding is, and I'm seeing this again in the kind of international media and in the regional media, that this war in Afghanistan is being kind of portrayed, again, quote unquote, as some sort of Afghan. That's not true, actually. We should kind of just move beyond that. There is nothing just Afghan about this war. And that's something that needs to become public, understood, and appreciated. I mean, so we have to deal with that. I think rather you asked me about the youth. I wish I was young to tell you anymore, and I'm not in Afghanistan. So yes, I can tell you Afghanistan has changed. Yes, I can give you examples of girls and boys going to schools, and I can tell you that yes, maybe less than 60% of Afghanistan population, or more than that, or young people under 18 or something. But those are statistics that are out, so we can see them. And yes, Afghanistan has changed, but also the region has changed. The world has changed. So on one hand, while the internationals have to recognize that part, but Afghans themselves also have to recognize that the world has changed, and they have to be prepared for that world. So it's going to be, I should actually now use Professor Robin's kind of argument that it's not going to be easy to just simply transition from a state of war and peace in Afghanistan. But one way to just kind of transition probably is to at least recognize that Afghan people deserve peace, not just in words, but actually in action. It's real, and it's 40 years war. So the society has been traumatized, and it's real, and it's real, and we know this in the lives of our family members, and our friends, and in our neighbors, in our villages. So it's very obvious, and that's something dear to me. And to kind of, since this event is being organized in India, and I'm a South Asianist, and by training I'm a medievalist, so I know more about medieval South Asia than contemporary South Asia. From my little interactions or deep interactions with people from South Asia, in Pakistan, in India, I think, yes, we know there is like more engagement now at the regional level between South Asia and Afghanistan, let's say India now and India in the 1990s. But actually that connectivity now is kind of like policy orientated, not public orientated. I don't understand, I don't believe that people now in India know more about Afghanistan than they used to know in the 1990s. And I have met people, actually, they have told me that they used to come for vacation in the 1990s and 80s to Kabul and Afghanistan. You won't see that anymore. So the point I'm trying to make is we need like much more like broader and wider engagement, like people to people, and somehow, I don't know whether this is going to be possible, but somehow we have to come that Afghanistan needs to be kept away from this so-called Indo-Pak rivalry in the region. Somehow we have to find a way. Yes, Kashmir is important for people in Kashmir. Yes, Kashmir is important for India. Yes, important for Pakistan. It's important for Afghanistan, but Afghanistan is also important for Afghan. So that needs to be understood. So I won't. I will just try to conclude my remarks by saying that my understanding is that we need to find ways to prioritize peace in Afghanistan, and that's something that Afghans have to do it at the local, national level, and Afghans and people in the region have to do it at a regional level, and then at the international level. So something that I'm interested in, and something that's also very important. So I would just end there, and obviously.
Thank you.
Thank you.